Alright, who's ready for a 3-hour podcast?
Oh, yeah.
So, follow-up. First off, congratulations for your little fucking wager win last week. You absolute fucking bastard.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried that you wouldn't include it out of spite, but you did, so that's good.
Unfortunately, I did it badly, though, and I'll explain why. Even though halfway through the episode is when you started the wager, and then as the episode went on, as you counted up the amount of times I said 100%, that's when you sort of engaged in a second wager to see how many could go. And what happened was, as I was editing, I'd already deleted the preamble to what you were getting at, like, and why there was a break happening. So I didn't have any segue to there being a break in the middle of the episode by the time I realized it would have been good to keep that to keep in what you were saying. So it ended up all getting smushed at the end and had resolved itself just as it started at the very last second of the episode, making it impossible to enjoy from anyone that wasn't you or I.
That's a shame, because I was wondering where you put it at the end. I was like, maybe he's trying to save face. Like, if the audience is like playing along and they hear the worst of it, and me going, right, he's going to say it at least twice, and I managed to get 4.
Yeah, you got 4.
And I'm going like, yeah, like secretly, and then I'm just making fun of you by the end, going, yeah, 100%. You, like, maybe upon replay, you could hear the shit-eating grin in my voice as I'm saying it.
I actually boosted one of them in the audio.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Where you went, yes. But I didn't know what you were talking about. I didn't catch it in the moment.
I know, that was by design. I was keeping them down. I was like, yes. So I was like, the audience is going to hear that, but Lee's not.
Yeah, it's not for me being too precious or anything. I just literally fucked up the edit, and there was no way, without incredible difficulty, trying to get it all set up so that it made sense in context. So what I thought I'd do is I'd keep the semblance of it by the end, and then eager listeners could go back, or we could explain it this episode, and then somebody could go back and check it out there. And that would be the best we could do, because it was too late. A shame, but also good work, nonetheless.
I have a little bit of follow-up, which is that I suppose, like, you mentioned it in our clash of the egos at the end of the last episode. You used the word exhibitionism. And I've said something to the effect of, I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me, I never actually said what it was that it meant. Maybe it was because I was slightly embarrassed, but for the sake of follow-up, for posterity, exhibitionism refers to the fetish for exposing oneself in public.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I assume the root term still refers to, like, gallery making, or, I don't know, like performance art and shit like that.
I suppose performance art could be one way of describing it.
Yeah, fair enough. That's your follow-up? You didn't explain exhibitionism?
Yeah, that's about it.
It's like, I just love the mental image of you like holed up for a week, like, I didn't do it. I missed my chance. They have to know.
I can't live with the possibility that someone could come away from that thinking that I didn't know what the word means. Alright, so I joked last week about, how I just got off of a stressful Bravely Default marathon and I wanted to play something relaxing, and then I immediately subjugated myself to System Shock 1, just self-flagellation non-stop. There's no brakes on the Lawrence train, the brainworm train.
Of course not.
So I actually made a dedicated effort. You know what? Play this game. You've been singing on for so long. Have a bit of fun with it. It should be relaxing. It'll be fine. And I seem to have went too far in the opposite direction, because this game it shot past relaxing and landed squarely in the valley of boring. And this was a DS game called Hotel Dusk, Room 215.
Oh, yeah. They're like the detective game, right?
Yes, the point-and-click DS detective game.
Atmospheric,
pseudo
moody,
visual novel.
boring.
It's not that moody and atmospheric, to be honest.
So I've never played this at all. I know it. I know what it looks like, and it did get a little reference in Smash Brothers, I believe,
really?
as one of the little the not stickers, whatever they're called, spirits these days in Smash Ultimate. So I don't really know how this game works at all.
So you hold on it. You hold the DS on its side, like you were reading an ebook or something.
That's an old trope. That's the Dr. Kawashima brain training approach. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing particularly strenuous about this game. So it's half visual novel, half point and click adventure. So the main point of comparison I'm going to make is with the Ace Attorney games as a point of contrast. So with Ace Attorney, there's two main modes of gameplay. There's the more visual novel-y, I suppose, investigation phase, where you go from location to location, examining areas for evidence, talking to witnesses, getting testimony, and then once that's starting to get a little bit dull, it'll seek into the courtroom phase, which is the more exciting, drama. Yeah. You present your evidence in the testimony, and you cross-reference it with the witnesses brought forth by the prosecution, and you trip them up in their lies, and you catch them off guard, and it plays the music, and you slam the desk a lot, and it's a great time.
Or if you've got the old DS version, you can scream at it, objection!
That's right, you can hit the button, and you can yell objection into the mic and feel like a total goofball as you do it.
Yeah, so I could see your point immediately that Phoenix Wright is a little heavier than most visual novels because there is a logic-based deduction side of the story.
Hotel Dusk is almost exclusively the investigation part. It's the investigation part of Ace Attorney games stretched out across an entire game.
No.
So the premise is this: you play as Kyle Hyde, an ex-cop who's now working ostensibly has a door-to-door salesman, but he's secretly working as like a sort of, not quite a private investigator, more like a...
nosy bastard.
Nosy bastard for hire, essentially. Not freelance, he works for like a company. And this is kind of a problem with the game. The fact that he's not a cop or a lawyer or acting in any kind of official capacity. I'll say why this is a problem later on when I get to it. And he arrives at the Hotel Dusk. He's looking for an ex-partner of his who was crooked and whom he shot back in the day, which was what led to him being fired from the force. And he's looking for clues to his whereabouts in the eponymous Hotel Dusk. And Kyle Hyde...
I thought you said he shot him, or was he shot by him?
No, he shot his partner because his partner was bent.
Okay.
But
he didn't kill his partner then, he just
Well, he got shot, he fell into the Hudson, and they never found the body. It's one of those situations.
Very dramatic.
So, Kyle Hyde's approach, his methodology towards investigation in this hotel, is to bumble around... is to wander around cracking wise and being like the disgruntled former cop that he is, with like a drinking problem and like his like crummy jacket and like his tie loosened. And it's speaking to everyone in the hotel, asking them incredibly personal questions that for no reason they should ever answer, getting up all in their business, prying from them their deepest, darkest secrets, and hoping that eventually if he does this to enough people, an overarching conspiracy will emerge from which he can derive what he wants.
Wow, it's like the Miss Marple approach.
Yeah, it is. So it's like everyone in this hotel has got a secret, and some of the secrets tie together in such a way where I'll be able to deduce where my old partner is, because he stayed at this hotel one time. I think. That's what the clues lead. And the problem with this is because he's not acting in any kind of official capacity and he is maintaining that he is a door-to-door salesman, he's asking questions that by all rights would get him punched in the face. Like, no one is under any obligation to answer any of the things that he says, especially because he gets really, like, pushy about some of them.
You have to tell me.
In fact, one of the only ways to get a game over in this game, and this is quite funny, like, okay, so the owner of the hotel is like a sort of like aging middle-aged Robert De Niro type called like Dunning. And one of the only ways to game over is to ask him about something or to present him with evidence, for lack of a better word, that you could only know about because you went into like staff only areas and pinched them. At which point you'd be like, hey, what the fuck's going on here? Get out of my hotel, you thief! Which is very cathartic, even if it does force you to reload a save, because it's like the only time that he'll ever see consequences for being just such a like aggressively nosy person.
Man, what a premise.
Especially because there's at one point where you're stitched up for stealing things. Yeah, you're stitched up for stealing 20 grand, right? The 20 grand was planted in the cistern of your hotel room. Sure. And you're like, ooh, intrigue. And I'm pretty sure I got busted once. Not because I had the 20 grand in my inventory, I had hidden it away. But the owner of the 20 grand demanded that Dunning search everyone's private inventories, for lack of a better word. And Dunning searched my inventory, and he didn't discover the 20 grand. He had instead discovered all the tools that I had pinched from the utility closet in order to solve a puzzle earlier in the game. And then I got busted and chucked out and got a game over from that alone.
Excellent.
And it's always really funny because there's always this awkward pause where it's like, sorry about this, gotta check your inventory. And then he looks in your inventory, and then there's this brief moment of, yeah, it's like, there's the ... and your hand is hovering, your stylus is hovering over the continue button, and you're like, I wish I could just live in this moment forever.
So it's weird to play one of those games where you have such a disconnect with your hero. You're like, why am I allowed to do this?
Which is a shame because other than his taking of incredible liberties with the personal and privacy of everyone around him, I actually do quite like Kyle, even if he is a bit of a worn out old hat stereotype of the, disgruntled former cop. This guy, he's very much smacks to me of an American archetype that's being written by Japanese writers.
Yeah, kind of in the same vein of Francis York Morgan, just more inspired on the police side of things, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Like, he's very hard-boiled. Like, he'll be, like, rude in very amusing ways to people. Where, like, there's a maid character called Rosa, who is the cleaner and the cook for the hotel. It's like a small hotel, so there's not a lot of staff. And every time she makes an appearance, he goes, "Oh, it's you." And like he'll never go, "Oh, hello, Rosa," or "Oh, hey, it's Rosa." You go, "Oh, it's you," because she's always pestering. She's always pestering him to do shit. Where it's like, "Hey, can you go get an autograph from this famous author that's staying downstairs?" Or, "Hey, can you look after this girl while I go get stuff from the staff only area?" And you're like, "Yeah."
I feel like the more you describe this game, the less of it I understand.
Yeah. So basically, it's on rails to like a disgusting extent. Like. It's like the world's slowest roller coaster. So, you'll leave your room and you'll go down the hall intending to speak to somebody who you're pretty sure is in like the lounge area. And like, it feels like every time I leave my room and try to go somewhere, I'll be interrupted by a cutscene of somebody coming out of their hotel room to go, "Oh, hey, it's you." And then like a sort of prolonged conversation will happen. Then I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah.
I mean, like, what? Do you have no gameplay elements that you can actually, do you have conversational choices? Do you...
Occasionally, you'll be presented with conversational choices. Some of them, if you pick wrong, you'll get a game over because the person, usually Dunning, will say, "Get the fuck out of my hotel."
Yeah, that makes sense.
And sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, I've got this person on the ropes. They're about to divulge a secret," and then you'll make a misstep, and they'll be like, "Nah, I'm not going to tell you."
Okay.
I was going to tell you, even though I shouldn't. But I'm not. But no, I'm not going to. I've done the sensible thing.
And then what does the game sort of game over and bring you back to the main screen, or?
Basically, it goes, "Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. You fucked up. Try again."
Alright.
So the actual gameplay, aside from tapping through conversations, is that you've got on the left hand side. Well, I've got left hand mode on because I'm a lefty, right? You have the map, and you use the stylus to move around the map, and this took some getting used to, because on the right hand side is a first person view of Kyle going through like the DS hotel like 3D environments. And on the left is the map where you put the stylus down in order to move him around. And looking back and forth between the two is kind of disorientating to such an extent where I probably won't like even look at the first person view because there's no information there that's of use. You'll just be like, alright, so there's a blue person here. I guess that means there's a witness. I'll go talk to them.
So yeah, and then follow it up on the map and then occasionally look to the other camera just to see, okay, I made it to that thing I said I would do.
Mm-hmm. The extent of the gameplay is going from place to place, inspecting things in the environment to look for evidence, and then occasionally you'll be asked to do a puzzle, and it's always a very, very basic puzzle. Something along the lines of, tap this paperclip in order to unwind it to make a lockpick.
Well, that's very basic.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe, like, you ever see those sort of hidden object games that they have? Like the kind of Skinner boxes at this point, but there's like 100 of them on Steam or
yeah, I know the ones you mean. The missus is a big fan, I understand.
Yeah, they kind of break up the finding segments where you trail yourself from room to room to slot a thing into slot a dog into a dog-shaped door, as I recall.
Yeah.
They'll have occasionally you'll slot that dog in and then it opens up a puzzle and it's like a sliding block puzzle and you just solve the sliding block puzzle. It has basically nothing to do with what you were doing beforehand. It's just a random, arbitrary, like traditional puzzle on top of a normal finding game.
So they do manage to squeeze in a couple of actual puzzles in a somewhat ham-fisted way. Not in a Resident Evil sense, just like you'll find a puzzle in the corner of a room written on the back of a matchbox and you can solve it if you like. Which is unfortunate because the puzzles that they provided so far of that nature are ones that I already remember doing in every Professor Layton game that I've played.
Of course. I love the idea of the concept of a game where you walk around and you've got like this like serious mission, but occasionally you'll find like a McDonald's map tray sheet, and then you have the option to just fill it in and then pat yourself on the back when you do it, and that's it. That's all you get out of it. That was just a fun image that came to me while you were describing that.
So I said earlier how this game is disgustingly on rails. So the puzzles in this game aren't difficult, and to such an extent where you'll often have figured out the solution to a puzzle before the game allows you to solve it. Very frustrating. Like I mentioned earlier about how you'll unfold a paperclip in order to make an impromptu lockpick. Mm-hmm. So you enter your hotel room, right? You've got your briefcase in the corner. You do, you search the room looking for all the various flags, the trip in order to progress the story and to get all the available items in your inventory before you progress, right? Mm-hmm. So I see the file that has not even a file, it's a couple of sheets of paper with a paperclip. And the paperclip is selectable, so I go, ooh, hey, this is a private eye game set into the 70s. There's a paperclip here. What are the odds I'm going to need to pick a lock with this paperclip? So I click on it, and Kyle goes, I don't need to pick this up right now. I'm like, oh.
Are you serious? You can't even just hold on to it?
Uh-huh. And then literally a minute after this happens, I go to open my briefcase and the key breaks off inside of it. And he goes, damn, what am I going to do? So guess what? I go to the paperclip, I select it, and he goes, yeah, I'm going to use this now. I'm like, it's one of these games, huh? It's going to be like this? You going to do me dirty like this game? That means that this game is now in the very unfortunate position of being incredibly easy puzzle-wise, but you still might need a guide for it because you just want to know where all the flags are so you can trip the flag required to progress the story so you then get on with what it is you were going to do.
A classic point and click pitfall. I was just looking at quick reviews there to see because in my head this game had reviewed quite well, but I'm obviously confusing it with
9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors, aka the first Zero Escape game.
Oh, I mean there's no shortage of escape the room games.
Well, yeah, but I mean there was a well-received one on the DS.
Which, to be clear, was called 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors.
That one was really well reviewed. This one is very
it's been
middling.
Yeah, it's been modestly well reviewed. So I suppose, do you remember when we discussed, I'm not sure if it was on the podcast, how you can tell that a game is a Mega Drive game or a Genesis game, if you prefer, based purely upon the soundtrack because it has a very distinctive sound chip, dirty Genesis bass.
Yeah, that was 100% on the show.
Okay, that's one down for the tally for this episode. We can, I think at this point, I've basically acquired the same knack for identifying DS games based on their soundtrack as well, because DS games have that very limited sound chip as well. Like, you've played 42 all-time classics, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
The soundtrack to that game is very, like, it's almost, like, distinctively DS-y.
Yeah. It's kind of, the sound is kind of sparse, like an electric keyboard being played a room away.
This game is much of the same, to such an extent where I heard some of the tracks and I was like, oh, this is a fucking DS game, my god.
So have you have you gotten anywhere near to finishing Hotel Dusk, or are you planning to finish it?
So there's 10 chapters in this game. I'm on chapter 8. It's very likely I will have finished it today or tomorrow. So and I will have started what I've got planned for next week as well, which I'm very much looking forward to. It's a surprise. It's System Shock 2. It's System Shock 2.
You've gotten your relaxation quota done, filled, and then some. It's finally time to get back to work.
Yeah, well, I find this game kind of dull, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'll actually find System Shock 2, the horror game, like, actually a lot more relaxing than this one, I think.
Definitely.
Especially because now that I've played the first one, I can go, oh, they fixed this, that's a relief. Now I can actually do this. Oh, so many quality of life improvements, so I can appreciate the distinction.
That seems, that's a good argument for the brainworms.
So anyway, that's my week. That's Hotel Dusk.
Okay, so we're gonna jump into 3 separate topics, all of which hopefully I'll blast through. But it being our 3-hour podcast week, it's maybe not. So I promised 2 weeks ago / 1 week ago that we're going to do anime Cubbyhole, the latest of the Cubbyholes. So this week we're finally doing it. Anime Cubbyhole number 1. We're doing it first so that it's too late.
You're committed now, no backing out.
If we sprawl out into something else, it's just all staying in this time because Anime Cubbyhole has to stay.
Great.
Like the more weeks that get away from having written these thoughts out, the less tangible they seem to me. The less I'm now just reading the words of a person long gone.
Is it even me? I'm not that person anymore.
I didn't think Cowboy Bebop was any good at all. Fuck this guy. So I watched Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, very good. And how did you find it?
Did
you enjoy one of the greatest animes of all time, Lee?
That's right, I did. I mean, yeah, obviously it's fucking great. Everybody knows that. Sometimes it's not really worth fighting the cause. So all I've done is sort of list a bunch of stray thoughts. One was that I did find it weird, or is it weird? Is it weird that I like episodic adventure format more in the act of writing them than I do in the act of viewing them? Because I think I don't like starting whole new adventures week by week, because my brain is bad. And this has been a problem before with, in particular, most poignantly, I struggled to enjoy as much as the world seemed to, the third part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, for its stop-start, villain a week episode structure.
You don't like standalone episodes? You don't like villain of the week, monster of the week stuff?
I do. I struggle with it. I didn't struggle with it as a kid, but I guess I'm starting to now. I don't know.
It seems a strange thing to struggle with. Most people would struggle with the ongoing storyline stuff because they need to keep track of an ongoing narrative.
Yeah.
Well, the standalone stuff should be easier on paper anyway.
Yeah, you see, in my perspective, it's like having to work up the energy to start a story from the beginning, and the beginning of the story for me is the hardest part. So each episode, it has a start, middle, and end. Whereas a serial thing, once I get past the start, I can just hold on and see where it goes, and each episode ends with something to pull you into the next one, so you're always being dragged into it. Whereas episodic ones, they're so self-contained that you end up, and this is why, like, for example, with Back to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, why the 4th and 5th series parts I didn't have nearly as much of a problem with, because the 4th one is one long interconnected story broken into little tiny stories and sort of side stories based around a long lingering plot. And the 5th one, it's it's kind of the exact same thing as the third one. But I guess the mission statement and the variety of what was going on in their goal was a little more distinct each episode. They don't spend any time in one location. Like at the end of one encounter, one villain of the week, which takes about 2 episodes to finish, they've finished going to the place that they were trying to go to the episode before. That's all a long side tangent to say that I struggled a little bit with Cowboy Bebop. Just because its episodic nature is really episodic, to the point where it for at least the first half of the show, there's basically no serial elements to it whatsoever. It's like it just feels like the random adventures of these space cowboys, and I found that like hard to get into because I was like, yeah, I mean they're really cool concepts, but am I actually going to see? Like, are these characters going to really step into their own at any point?
Do you mean that in the sense that you find it hard to get invested in standalone episodes?
Yeah, it would take me a while to engage with what the episode was starting to, or was what the concept of the episode was.
Right, okay. I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised to hear that. I would think that standalone, self-contained episodes would be more your bag because it suits your approach of hopping from thing to thing and coming back at later dates, that sort of thing. I don't even mean that in like a condescending kind of way.
No, of course not. No, it literally does make sense on paper, but apparently it's easier just to jump into one thing and stay there as long as it will have me, as long as it keeps dragging me from one episode to the other, than it is to start each episode in a whole new concept with a whole new lore. And maybe it's particularly difficult for Cowboy Bebop because its writing style is so open and sparse. You know, it's not very forthcoming on details as to what they're doing at the start of each episode. It's like, we're already here, we're already in the middle of something, and then you piece it together from there, which I like. You know, like, to be clear, this is really good writing. I just I just struggle to enjoy it. It takes me a while to get into it. I at the end of the day, I do think Cowboy Bebop does it best. It takes a while for me to get into it, and I do think for general audiences it probably does take a while to feel like it's getting going. You know, like it feels like, what's it really getting at or getting to? It explores this world to a point, but it does feel like you have to be 12 episodes in to realize, oh, there is something going on. You know, which maybe doesn't matter to a lot of people, but I guess I generally like stories that connect or end up building on the characters that they set up at some point, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be that kind of show until about 12 episodes in, when I'm like, oh, okay, these characters are developing. Oh, right. You know, there was serial elements. They were just very subtle. It's just well written.
It was a bit too static for your tastes?
Yeah, well, no. I still really, really enjoyed it. I do think there's some foreboding elements to it that I think can trip people up getting into it. Or at least that was my experience. Maybe nobody has any issues with this and I'm just rattling on about something that nobody cares about. But that's how my brain works.
Now, when you say you finished it, does that mean the TV show and the movie?
No, I didn't. I didn't watch the fucking movie. The movie's a prequel. You know, the story's over. I'm not dragging myself back. It's not even like a prequel. It's like between episodes story. And, you know, like it's like episode 23.5. Is the film when there's 26 episodes. So it's something like that. I don't know the specific number. And I'm sure it's really good, but I like the emotional investment and the sort of ride once you get to the end of Cowboy Bebop is a little too much for me to think, all right, what I need to do is cling desperately to every fragment of the story that's out there. I'm not that kind of person.
I guess for people at the time, they finished the show, you know, as it was happening, and then there was a long gap.
Yeah.
And then the movie came out, and then they watched it, and I was like, oh yeah, you know, it was just dipping your toe back into that world with these characters, as opposed to the contemporary audience who had watched them all on the trot.
Yeah.
Which is probably a different experience.
To be fair, I definitely prefer the idea that the movie isn't like a contingent, you know, it's not a necessary sequel to the show. I think the show ends perfectly. I think it starts perfectly. I think it doesn't need to go any further back than where the show starts. You You know, like, if they were going to do any continuation, another episode of Cowboy Bebop that's slightly longer is a good way to do it. I just don't know if I can muster the will to something that seems so ancillary to what was, in my head, like a perfect package. You know, like, okay, yes, they wanted to go back and they wanted to tell one more thing and all, but I feel like the character arcs were already told, and, there's more of a chance of them muddying the water or ruining it than there is for them to, like, yes, one last write-off goodbye to these great characters. You know, I maybe I'm playing it overly safe. I'm sure a lot of people do like the film.
Consensus on the movie is that it is great, as far as I understand.
Okay. Well, maybe
it's of quality comparable to the series. This isn't me making a hard sell. I mean, I haven't seen the film, so I can't really say for myself. But that seems to be my understanding of the situation.
Yeah. All right, well, fair enough. Maybe I'll get around to it. Maybe I'll give it the same amount of years that the world gave it, and see if, like, the desperation sets in to see it just a little touch more of Cowboy Bebop, where it's all still fresh. I'm like, okay, I like sitting in the afterglow of such things. It's really good. I liked everybody on the team, which is rare. It's definitely, like, shows where there are characters in this same setup that you end up not liking or choosing favorites or so on. But no, I genuinely liked everybody pretty evenly, even Edu.
It's all right, Lee. You can say Ed. It's fine. People won't mind.
It was supposed to be a joke.
So did you watch the dub or the sub here?
I watched the sub.
Really? Most people would opt for the dub. I feel like this is the one series in particular where most people would actually be inclined to think that the dub is the better version.
Yeah, and it's the whole thing is that the dub was at a time for a lot of American viewers, like the first one of the sort of Toonami block of edgy new cool things coming through when anime was just getting big. To have a dub that proficient on something that mature obviously left a lasting impact, but I think I tried a little bit of it and I wasn't really gelling with the voices I had in my head.
You weren't gelling with Steve Blum and his like career-defining role?
Yeah, no, I think he was fine. I had already grown attached to the voices in Japanese. I didn't really feel like there was a necessity to overthink it and try and give the American version a go. You know, sometimes I jump back and forth, like I originally, when I was a teenager and watched Death Note, sometimes whatever platform I was watching it on, extra legally, as you might say, they didn't have either or all the episodes in one language option.
But they had a mishmash of both. Oh, I hate that. I hate it.
Death Note was very lucky in that the consistency of quality for the acting was really good across both. So I got quite lucky in that regard. And so I ended up not minding. I felt kind of pleased that I had seen it in both matters.
I had that problem with Hellsing.
Oh, yeah?
I was trying to watch Hellsing, and I opted for the sub, but there was one episode that was a dub, and I spent so long trying to find
a sub version.
A source of a sub version, but they all must have had the same source, I take it.
Yeah.
Because all I could find was the dub version, and you know what? Hey, Crispin Freeman's got a nice voice. He's a sexy dude, but it's not what I was looking for. Still, I gripped my teeth and I bared it. Helsing's good, by the way.
Okay, mentally noted. Yeah, I really like the Japanese cast. I wouldn't say like something would be lost doing it in American. It's just like I picked my poison early on and I stuck with it. I was well aware going into it that the American version was a big deal to people, but as much as I can possibly, I try to stick to subs.
I will generally do the same. You know what? Whenever I watch a new anime for the first time, I'll go in. I'll just go to the subreddit and get the consensus dub or sub. It's almost always sub, and sub will be the one that I default to when I am uncertain, and that seems to be a pretty good policy. But there have been a few ones where I've opted for the dub, and it's always worked out.
Yeah.
If the overwhelming consensus is go for the dub, then I will do so. Cowboy Bebop was one of them, where it's like the dub is better, watch the dub. Evangelion was another.
You watched the dub version of Evangelion, really?
Yes, because I also wanted to be, in addition to wanting to experience Evangelion, I wanted to be part of the zeitgeist as well. And most people would have listened to the English dub.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? The English dub for that is quite good.
Oh, fair enough.
And what was the other one?
Well, Dragon Ball's a big one for me.
Oh, well, yes, Dragon Ball is the big one, but I'm not as big of a Dragon Ball mark as you are. I suppose, yes, it was the Big O. The Big O was it's the pseudo-Batman Gundam giant robot one. You'll recognize the aesthetic if you look it up. It was on Toonami for a while. I find that Toonami is often becoming...
the name of the show is The Big O?
The Big O. It's the... I feel like the common denominator for a lot of these is, should I watch the dub or sub? And I opt for the dub was it on Toonami in the 90s? And everyone very strongly remembers the dub very fondly.
Man, that dude looks strikingly like Bruce Wayne from the Batman animated series.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
I do remember this being advertised on Toonami, actually. I believe. I remember the logo of it at the very least, and nothing else.
I don't think I ever finished it. You know, I might go back to it. It's one of those sort of 90s animes that you have a fondness for in your head that you just want to go back to and live in that coziness for a little while. I might do that at some point.
Anyway, to bring it to Cowboy Bebop, really good. As I was saying, I don't know if people are really divisive on Ed or not. Maybe they are.
No. Most the consensus. Everyone likes Ed.
Good, thank God. You know, it's one of those things that in lesser shows, I'm sure a lot of people just would have fucking written Ed off. Ed's great, much needed like lightness that, you know, obviously Cowboy Bebop finds a way to break your heart over. So yeah, anyway, I'd say really enjoyed watching it. Definitely one of the best anime shows in terms of completeness I've watched. It's got stiff competition for top 5, and it didn't make it in. Like I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, all right, JoJo, Evangelion, Death Note, Dragon Ball, which I refuse to move, and you can all fight me. It's not deep. I don't care. It's like I love Dragon Ball, and you know,
its number is so big.
The 5th one, I still like. You're not nearly as interested in it, but I was really affected by Devilman Crybaby. To a real deep extent. I really love that show, so I still think it kind of scratches into number 5.
I think that might be because I watched Evangelion first.
Maybe.
And I watched Devilman afterwards. I went, I'm seeing some strong comparisons here. There's some influences going on. And I don't think that diminished my opinion of the show in any way. I do think I guess a lot of the initial, you know, something hits you and you're like, wow, I've never seen this before. This is crazy. Because, you know, there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn between the end of Devilman Crybaby and the end of Evangelion. To be sure.
Sure, but I mean, like, that ending was in the original Devilman, so...
Oh, I mean, I'm not saying that there's, like, you know... I'm not saying that anyone ripped anyone off, but you know what I mean? Like, I saw Evangelion first.
Yeah.
And that had the big,
this has
wow,
that lessens the impact, for sure. Well, to be fair, it didn't work in reverse. I felt like the end of Evangelion struck me just as hard in a totally different way.
But it's something, alright?
It's wonderful.
Woo!
And both endings of Evangelion, I really loved. We've talked about it before. You didn't really love the original ending of the show. I thought that was great on its own.
My exact phrasing was the only show I've seen where the response to running out of money was to disappear up its own ass.
Well, anyway. Other anime I watched, I've continued my adventures, my Digimon adventures, :
Oh, lovely.
So it's like 12 episodes in now, I believe.
I suppose I should ask, you know, since this might be a recurring question, dub or sub? Dub, I take it?
The dub's not out. It's that fresh.
Oh, you're watching. Oh, yes, you're watching the new show. That's right. My mistake. I thought, I was thinking of Digimon Adventure 1.
No. I mean, when you get there, you gotta do dub. Like, that's like watching.
That's another Toonami
trying to watch the Pokemon anime in Japanese. You can't do that.
No, it's just not the way things are done.
It's just not right. It's unnatural. Yeah, so I'm watching Digimon Adventure : for those who didn't check that episode, whatever that was. So I'm still watching it. I guess spoilers for the children's TV show. But there was a recently, and by recently I mean this was about 3 weeks ago, but there was recently a traumatic episode
Not like our grown-up cartoons, that's for sure.
Not the same, not the same type of trauma, but a traumatic episode where Ogremon, staple series bad guy, and this time honor-bound anime warrior, gets betrayed by the villains and crushed to death in a shot that is as scarring as it is hilarious.
That's what I like about Digimon over Pokemon. It's not afraid it doesn't fuck around.
Yeah, they really try to drive home just how awful this event is. And for a kids show,
there's some whiteouts in this show.
It's pretty brutal. I'll be honest. There's just a shot where nothing happens, and then suddenly Ogremon is flattened under a massive foot, Monty Python style. But then we see his disinterred corpse, and it's just rough.
Sure, the villain of Digimon Data Squad was just a genocidal maniac who just committed atrocities all the time, and it was played for this is like the end of this is like the wiping out of a people. This is fucked up.
Yeah. Which is good. The same thing is in this Digimon one where there's an underlying threat to all of Japan / the world that if these kids don't finish this adventure quick enough, Ty's mother's gonna fucking starve to death, which is pretty bleak. Nice. There's an electronic blackout, but it's affecting their food supplies, and they don't spare details of how this affects the world. It's pretty great. I mean, there was a part where they could have got nuked to death that very early on. They solved that, but then but that was kind of there's no way they're gonna nuke Japan.
Yeah, who would do something like that?
There's just no way. But they haven't let up on the... By the way, Japan is going to suffer unless these fucking kids get their shit together in the digital world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I said, no fucking around in this show.
Yeah.
You're thrown into a hostile environment and you either shape up or you get fucked. You get eaten alive by some giant creature with a really complicated name.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm still watching it. It's very formulaic, so there's really not much to talk about past that point. The other show I watched last on this list is Extra Olympia Kyclos.
Extra Olympia what now?
Extra Olympia Kyclos. Haven't you heard? So this is an ongoing, and for quite a while now, ongoing weekly manga in Jump Shonen that has only recently got its big day anime adaptation.
Oh, this looks pleasingly offbeat.
Yeah. So it's by far the weirdest show I think I've started watching in anime, because I don't think I've ever watched a straight up comedy in anime. But this is that. I mean, I guess the closest I've watched to straight up comedy was Persona 4, the animation, which is fucking hilarious. But it's 5-minute long episodes. There's a new one every week, and it's about a guy who I'll dare to call, but I might be misremembering. His name is Demetrius, Demetrius, something like that, who is an athletically built potter in ancient Greece, who is afraid of the Olympics and violence. And every episode, he kind of gets into an argument with the greedy mayor of his town, and then ends up getting time traveling to 1960s Tokyo, where the Olympics is taking place. And
oh dear!
And each episode, he kind of learns a lesson from the future and tries to apply it to ancient Greece, to sometimes success and sometimes embarrassment. The animation is rendered in clay models and paper cutouts.
Yeah, I'm looking at the screenshots here. This is a really nice aesthetic, really distinct.
It is. It's very memorable. I think, and I mean, it's all absurd. It's really, really quick. I mean, if I were a kid and watching this, this would be the greatest fucking show. As an adult, it's quaint, it's cute. I check in on it now and then. I don't try to make a big deal out of it. I don't have to catch every episode. The best part about it is every episode ends in a very short song about an element of ancient Greek living, usually. And oftentimes they're just fucking hilarious.
Are you familiar with that "Who are you? I am from ancient Greece" meme?
No.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
It's from the darknet, as usual. Yeah, so I mean, I recommend it. Although it's not a serious, this will change your life recommendation. Just give it a few episodes. If it's your kind of comedy, then it's your kind of comedy. If it's not, then whatever. I'm glad I've watched maybe 10 episodes. Just you're glad you've watched or listened to 10 episodes of Vectormen, baby. 10th anniversary.
Absolutely.
Bam, bam, bam.
We've come so far. We've improved so much.
I literally listened to the first episode today, and we don't sound any different 10 episodes on.
I know. In episode 1, I was recording this in a cubbyhole in the corner of my room with a terrible mic. Now I'm recording it in the cubbyhole in the corner of my room with a fairly good mic.
Alright, next up, Dark Souls Cubbyhole.
Oh, sorry. What did you say there? I heard cubbyhole. I didn't hear the.
You can probably guess. Dark Souls Cubbyhole. That's what's next.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Alright, I didn't actually write down what I did, but I'll try and vaguely remember. So, where did I end up? I was in the depths. So what I've done since, I plowed through the depths. There's a boss in the depths, isn't there? Oh, yes! There is. There's a really good one.
I know, it's so cool, isn't it?
The gaping dragon, is that his name?
Yeah, that's right.
That fucking guy, I loved it. I love that he's not really the boss. The boss is the fucking dude on the 3rd floor shooting crap at you.
Yeah, he leaves an impression, huh?
What a fucking great design is exactly what I'm looking for from these games. That was so much fun.
You look at this going, more like this, please.
Exactly, that was such a fun boss. I failed it a good number of times, mostly because of Arrow Boy at the top level. Putting just the right amount of pressure on to just not fucking stay out in the open or stick around for any length of time. Yeah, no, it was a really, really good fight. I enjoyed the challenge of doing it with this asshole fucking pelting me every 5 seconds. Got the key from him to Blighttown and went to the famous Blighttown.
Frame rate time?
I had the remastered version, so it was perfectly fine.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. You're not getting the authentic experience. You're not getting the experience of walking into Blighttown, panning the camera around at all the rickety framework, and watching your frame rate plunge to like 10 frames per second.
Yeah, no.
And going, oh no.
I remember hearing that the remastered version wasn't particularly great, but I have literally had no problems with it, and certainly not in performance. It's been great.
Oh, it was shocking. I'm telling you, it's like, how did this game get shipped in this state?
I'm relieved, because it ain't worth it. Yeah, I've already been through Blighttown. I loved Blighttown, actually. I'm sure that the most harrowing experience of it is its frame rate. But I don't know, I found it really fun to get around. I love the aesthetic of it. It is miserable, but I love the rickety. It is a unique look.
I think there's one level that is like this in every Souls game. And Demons, Souls 2 and Souls 3, there's a fucking dank ass, this is disgusting, I'm waiting waste level through human excrement, like a swamp level. And did you get to the bottom?
I did. I'm actually a good bit further than Blighttown.
Grand.
So what I did, I got to the bottom. It wasn't too trying. The dart guys were very annoying, so finding them and killing them was very, very satisfying once you track them down.
Yeah, they don't come back. That's
a relief. That makes Blighttown actually quite manageable. Got to the bottom where the swamp is, found a bonfire. That was a great relief.
Ooh. Oh yeah,
I can love that. That was just
it's at this point. It's I should ask: have you been kindling bonfires?
No, I haven't. So
what that means is, if you kindle a bonfire, it means whenever you rest at that bonfire, you get more Estus refills from it.
Oh, okay.
So if you find yourself getting your ass kicked in a particular segment of the game, and you're going, this is fucking
you can trade a humanity to kindle the thing,
and you'll get instead of, you start off with 5, isn't it?
5 Estus last, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can bump it up to 7 and more beyond that, but I only think you can bump it up to a max of 3.
All right, cool. That is good to know. Well, I haven't needed it so far, so I mean, fair enough. I got to there's a bonfire in the swamp. That's pretty fucking handy. And then there's a big dopey spider web thing in the far distant part of the swamp. And this leads to what was a super fucking fun boss. This whole route was really fun. Every enemy in it is really fun. Kind of pestering and annoying. And the poison routes kind of make it slightly difficult to traverse. But
did you get the wood grain ring?
Maybe not.
It's a ring that allows you to roll in the waist high shit.
Oh,
basically.
then 100% not. There's your second 100%. There's your third 100%. There's your fourth.
Oh, just racking them up.
No, I absolutely didn't. But yeah, it was fine. So I got up into this place where a spider lady is.
Quailag.
Quailag. That's right. What a fun boss. Super, super fun.
She's cool.
She's got like a knife sword thing, flame sword thing. She shoots lava out from the ground and spits out lava.
That reminds me. Boss souls, what have you been doing with them?
Keeping them.
Keeping them?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a good instinct that you've been keeping them, because in addition to eating them to gain a whole bunch of souls, you can trade them in for boss weapons and armor later on.
So I've read, and I've been I keep checking in with the blacksmith in case he changes his mind about ever taking any of them, but he's never asked. But so yeah, I assume someday they'll be important. And on that instinct, just like with the humanities, I've been hoarding since the start. I've just kept it all afloat. Anyway, killed Spider Lady, which took a couple of goes, but once you get down her that she kind of flashes when she uses her sword, then you get the rhythm, and then it's just a good old time. Rang the bell, smash that bell, subscribe,
nice.
Destroyed that bell.
2 bells of awakening.
Yeah.
Game over, right? You've done what you came here to do. Game's over. Fantastic.
That's right.
Let's go home, boys.
Went down. There's 2 bonfires down there. That was funny because I didn't see the one you're supposed to find first, because I got the message to run through a hidden wall and joined a new covenant, which is the Spider People Chaos one.
Yes, that's right.
And that was good. But there's like a hell path down there with another bonfire. I walked down there. I didn't really see where to go, so I think I'm probably here too early. So I made a mistake. I backtracked all the way up to Firelink with the shortcut path that's in Blighttown, which is fucking great. Goes through the Valley of Drakes, killed a dragon thing that's hanging on the side of a cliff. That was fun. Yeah, but went to Firelink and everybody's gone.
Oh my goodness!
I was genuinely shocked. It was really very scary. The fire's been put out, and the lady who ups your S's fast, she was dead.
Oh my goodness!
Scary.
Who could have done this?
I don't know. It might have been that knight guy, the golden armor guy. He was sort of saying, "I'm thinking about moving." Could have been him, but I don't know. Lautrec, yeah. He was like, me. I'm thinking of. A bit tired of this spot, might get out of here. And you know it's bad when the guy who fucking chuckles at you from the bonfire, he was fucking distressed.
Oh, yes, I know the one, the crestfallen warrior.
Yeah, that guy who's been like, "You're gonna die out there." You go to him and he's like, "You rang the bell, everybody's gone, and it's getting really, really scary these days." And I'm like, "Oh man. What a downer." I liked you more when you were a prick. Anyway, I actually made that whole backtrack because I had a new Firekeeper soul or whatever they're called. And I was looking to upgrade my Estus Flask, and then I came back to find her dead. And I was like, fuck! So I had to go all the way back down through Blighttown to my new covenant because Spider Lady does the same thing, but I didn't have the fucking upgrade at the time.
So from the Fire Lady, the one who's dead, her name's Anastasia, I think, or something like that. There's an item on her body. Did you get it?
I did.
Excellent. You will be making use of that at some point.
Okay.
I will say no more.
Great. Anyway, so I went back up. I did the thing. I went to the gate where Sigmund was, or Sigmire was, that had opened after ringing the 2 bells, and I walked in and was fighting off some lizard guys, and I was like, these lizard guys are a little strong, like surprisingly strong. Not kicking my ass, but in groups, I feel like I'm being more than challenged than by these sort of mid-level, next rung up guys. You know, I expected when you're walking through the swamp and you're kicking everything's ass, you kind of think that the next place you're supposed to go is probably going to be something a little more like mid-level, you know, more than a couple of swipes, but a little bit of parrying and you're good. But the lizard guys are like 2 parries and a fucking swipe, so it might be a little early to be going through Ser's Fortress or whatever you call this place.
Sen's Fortress.
That's it.
AKA Sen's Funhouse, as everyone likes to call it.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely certain that's the first path, so I'm thinking I'll potter around a bit and see if I might get Sif now. I think I'm probably at the right level for that.
Oh yeah, you can take Sif at this point. I should say that canonically or on the critical path, Sen's Fortress is the way to go after you've rung the 2 bells. But no pressure. Do what you like.
Cool.
It's one of those games where you can take a side route and see where it takes you. On that note, so the bottom of Blighttown, right? At one end, there is the area leaning towards Quaylag's boss arena. In the other direction, there's another area at the other corner. Did you go in there?
I did go there. I'm not sure if I saw what I was supposed to see, because I climbed a tree and got a thing, like a shield. Crap.
There is
shield.
I would suggest that you take a closer look in there. You might find something of interest.
Right, okay. Alright.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, because my friend Andy Clark, who I've mentioned a couple of times on the show, he suggested track out that tree as well. And and when I got there and got the plank and that was it, I was like, maybe we were talking about something else. Or I got confused. But apparently, no, it is that tree. Alright, okay, I'll go back.
Okay. That's all that I'll say.
Alright, cool. But yeah, I'm having a good time. That's pretty much the progress I've made as far as I remember. The one thing that was ringing in my head a little bit recently, though, I kind of feel like now I'm at a point. I'm a good bit into Dark Souls, and I now more than ever do I feel absolutely baffled by the Dark Souls memes. Like, I feel like I should have caught on at some point and be like, yeah, the memes are starting to kick in. They're making sense. Like, get good, lol. But I fundamentally think that Get Good is still a demonstrably lame meme.
Oh, a lot of the memes stem from the PvP scene.
Okay, but no, I mean in common parlance from someone who wasn't into Dark Souls for the longest time, I've only heard Get Good in the context of if you're not enjoying Dark Souls, get good. And I'm like, that's not really what happened, though. I didn't get good at Dark Souls. I think I'm still pretty bad at it. I just...
Well, I mean...
I grinded a little bit, I guess.
I mean, I won't deny there is a small element of elitism at play there, but I guess it's because you weren't the intended recipient for that advice, if it could be called that. It's all those people who aren't really used to this kind of game, who... don't have, I guess, a Lawrence... people who aren't Lawrence adjacent and can't have me go, hey, have you tried doing this? This might help. I mean, keep in mind, you did start this game over twice.
Yeah.
This is for the people who didn't know that they should start over. They put all their levels into weird stats that they don't need because they were trying to balance things out. And they picked a weapon that wasn't very good and they didn't pick up on it right away. And they didn't have a grasp of what the game was trying to tell them regarding, the conservation of Estases, or, maybe they lost their souls a whole bunch of times and they're just getting really frustrated, and it's clear that's not really clicking with them, and they go, I'm having a lot of trouble, what do I do? And the response is, get good, which is basically, look at a guide, acquaint yourself with what the game expects of you.
Yeah. See, that's never what I've gotten from it.
Learn to roll, that sort of thing. Should have rolled.
I mean, there's definitely, getting physically better at the game makes sense. Getting better at its systems, fine. But I mean, it's the word "good" there that doesn't actually it just doesn't describe what you're doing. It's I guess it's meme. So there it is. You have all the answer you need. But then, it rhymes.
You got... I mean, I guess you don't get it because you got good. That's just the way it is.
But, it becomes more gatekeepy than useful for people who even could get into it, and could
to
apparently
be sure,
get
there
good.
Is there is some gatekeepiness to the get good meme.
But that's what it means.
It's partially gatekeeping. It's partially taunting people after you kick their ass in PvP.
I think it's even less interesting now because Dark Souls is a massively popular franchise.
Oh, it is now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know.
You have, there's a bit of hindsight bias at play here, because you have to remember Demon Souls came out, and it didn't do very well. I mean, it did all right, but the whole get good, lol, get wrecked, casual scrub, those people, they didn't really come about until Dark Souls 1 came out, and the PvP scene really developed, partially because of the whole, the game was marketed upon how difficult it was. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of people who weren't used to difficult games playing it when it came out and bouncing off of it super hard.
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't help that I had the whole, prepare to die, you're going to die over and over and over marketing campaign when it first came out.
I guess, okay. So I guess I get it. It's just that I found it very... Because you keep hearing it even after Dark Souls 3 came out. And, not only is, the tiredest of memes, but it's also, this is a massive fucking franchise. People are good, they get it. It's mainstream now, so it's not even gatekeeping that makes any sense. It's just a lame, derisive thing against some people who don't enjoy it at this point.
Well, the get good meme originated with this game.
Yeah, so I get it persisted, in its
context. If only out of because, memes don't just die.
Yeah, unfortunately.
They evolve.
They evolve or sort of stagnate, I guess. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, alright. Well, whatever. Anyway, that's Dark Souls Corner. Cubbyhole. Damn it.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. You're tilting your hand a little bit there.
Yeah, I'm fucking...
Making clear influences a bit too easily there, a bit too transparent.
Last thing from my week, which I'm sorry, I'm already going on way too long. I've been playing The Outer Worlds.
The Outer Worlds or The Outer Wilds?
The Outer Worlds.
Okay, so the Obsidian one, right?
Obsidian's lunch-eating simulator.
Uh-huh. That's right.
There's not a lot to talk about, to be honest. I just thought I'd bring it up because I've been playing. I'm about 12 hours into it. I've been saying the number 12 quite a bit this week. And it's okay. I've just realized that.
What is with numbers? It's like some kind of weird numerology. There's 100%, there's 12. What's going on here? The subliminal messaging is becoming a bit too obvious.
Yeah, I'm laying the foundation for a secret code. 100 minus 12 is 88. That took me way too long to do.
What happened in the year 1988? What happened?
That's when Zelda 2 came out. He made up. Zelda 2, something 2 minus 88. 86. Mm-hmm. Mario 2 came back to... This is a great bit.
Next bit.
Right. I think it's alright, so I've been playing Outer Worlds, and I think it's the first game I've played in a long while where I felt deeply uncritical. Borderline mindless. I mean, we've heard criticism of the open worlds. I mean, everybody liked it for the lunch stealing inherent, where it is Fallout, but not Jankus balls. Which, thumbs up on that. It truly is Fallout, but not Jankus balls. But I mean, the criticism that I've heard, as far as I'm aware, is all true. I mean, I remember Jack Packard, in his now defunct show Underdeveloped, he said the world building was particularly bad, especially early on.
I heard the opposite.
Yeah, no, it's true. In say Fallout games, it kind of pushes you out into this environment where you get the world gradually to you, and there are more obviously threatening forces and less threatening forces, but you really decide your own moral compass. The Outer Worlds is deeply pushing for you to see one side as a sort of legitimate, this is the good guy side, and you can bail on it anytime you want, which is good. But
you could be a corporate stooge.
But the world, you can't deny that the world is actively ruined by these companies. The setting of it doesn't allow for a real debate on what's the best way to handle this colony of planets.
Completely
it is
unlike real life.
But that's what I mean. The message is good. It's clear. Corporations don't have your best interest at heart. Don't let them run a government ever, like, but like in terms of like what the game is trying to do, in terms of giving you all the options, it's heavily biased against the capitalist side.
I suppose that's only true if you think that you need to morally align with something in real life in order to side with them in the video game. I mean, it's perfectly fine to, like, play the corporate stooge character because you think it's fun. Like, to just be like, I'm gonna toady up to these corporations and be a little, like, Randall with his, like, Randall from Recess with his little notebook, that sort of thing.
Here's the point Jack Packard made was that at the start of the game, there's this lost ship that your character is rescued from and revitalized from, where people from Earth have been sent to this space colony to be the next sort of inhabitants of these planets, and it has been lost for 50 odd years or something like that. And a crazy terrorist scientist man rescues you and pushes you on your way and gets you on the path to starting the game. Where a smart game would send him there and not really tell you much and say, hi, I'm the guy who saved your life, off you go. This one has a pre-written cutscene where the entire setup is that the corporations have left these people out here through negligence. Like, you're starting on a ground where you actively have reasoning to not trust the corporations because your character, regardless of the way you look at it, has been set aside by them by default. And it also goes quite a way to sort of saying, you can't even remotely trust the companies. You can't, like, there's no, like, mystique of falling for the wrong guy here. Like, the corporations are never given the chance to even, like, blindsight you at some point in their obvious way, which, you should see coming anyway, but there's nothing, like, alluring about that concept of joining the corporations because you don't know if you could actually rise up the ranks. You've seen the top, and you know that they don't let anybody in.
I think it'd be more of a roleplay thing for those so inclined.
Yeah, but I understand that. I just think that that's a fair criticism, that I feel like that side of the world building could have been cut and you could have been left to pick it all up yourself rather than being pushed out with too much information and then not being able to make dumb mistakes or fun choices on your gut instincts and changing your mind later on. Like, it kind of just pushes you out it's a bit of a silly thing, but it's a true criticism, I think.
I have to say, the criticism I've heard about the game is actually directly contrary to that. Like, the criticism I've always heard is that the game starts off very, very strong, but by the end of it, you're kind of, okay, I get it, and it peters out a little bit in the last couple of hours.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I haven't got that far. So, I mean...
Well, I hope I haven't primed you.
No, I mean, I've heard that criticism too. And to be fair, you do feel it. But I've always felt that in Fallout games anyway. And this one definitely has that same vibe. Like, I never finished New Vegas for the same reason. I found that the end goal wasn't all... Once you got into the world and realized how it all worked, I realized I never felt inclined to see it to any conclusion, or for some reason, like, I felt like I kind of, once the side quests all start building up, you start to realize, I don't know, like, I guess I'm not that invested, not as invested as the game is in itself. But I mean, aside from that and like other criticisms, like Yahtzee, he said, no matter what character build you go for, you're always going to be a dude with a gun. That's true. And Jim Sterling, I guess these are all escapist journalists. I don't know what to say about that. But Jim Sterling,
that just shows where your tastes are. You started off the escapist, and then you branched out from there.
Yeah, I guess. But Jim Sterling said it was as subtle as a dildo sledgehammer, which is very on brand. And those are all. I think those are all really valid. Playing it,
he would know.
Yeah. But like at the same time, it's not that I disagree with any of the criticisms. It doesn't seem to matter in the moment.
Yeah, you're just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, it's to me, it's the most comfortable fucking ride I could ever be on. It's just go and talk to people, take on missions, follow the waypoint, shoot things. It's mindless. But I mean, at the same time, there is a borderline. There is like a low level that needs to be checked. You know, it has to be an interesting setting. The characters have to be somewhat interesting. The writing has to be somewhat good. And it does have all those things in highs and lows, but for the most part, the baseline is quite above average. Like, it's funny when it needs to be funny. It's kind of harrowing and dark when it needs to be dark. I wouldn't say I'm emotionally affected one way or the other to, like, the absolute extremes, but, like, there's definitely parts where I've chuckled, or there's parts where I'm like, ew. And then, for the most part, I haven't really played a lot into, like, I haven't played it much as a shooter, which is good. And I haven't had to play it much as a shooter, which is really good. Like, there have been straight-up missions where I've been able to hit a button on a computer, and then all the enemies in the area fucked off, and then I just got on with the mission, got out, and got all the experience for doing so, regardless. Which was great. That's the character I rolled, and that's what I went with, so I'm happy about that. It doesn't work all the time, especially if you do side missions. There are parts where you just have to shoot your way through. And I do side missions, but at the same time, the combat's not hard. It gives you too many tools. It gives you way too much health packs and that you can carry on infinitely. And it gives you a slow-mo shoot button thing, which you really don't need. And not only that, if you have companions, not only will they shoot things for you and never really die, but they both have a instant kill this thing button. So, like, you really just have a fucking arsenal of things that allow you to get away with not having to do much combat at all. But, I mean, my advice to anybody who isn't playing the game with, like Lone Wolf, I have no companions, don't put any points into combat. Your character doesn't need any points in combat at all, and I regret putting the ones that I did in there.
Oh, you say that, but just wait. Wait till you get to that one quest where you're separated from your party and you have to do things on your own and you have to be reunited with them.
Could be the case. Could be the case. I'd find it hard to believe that they would make such a grand error for anything critical to the story path, but sure. Anyway, yeah, I've literally just been playing side missions and the missions of this. I really like the world.
How's the writing?
The writing's really good. It's the original guys who did the original Fallout.
It's got the Obsidian touch.
Yeah, it really does. It's really quite funny, I find. It is really, like, the moralism in it isn't very deep, but at the same time, you know, like, I'm really not there for that. I'm really here for just to be somewhere in a cool aesthetic, lose myself in this kind of universe for a while. And it's ticking that box really fucking well. And the writing goes a long way to make it so, because even though I don't listen to everything every character has to say, I do tend to stick around. And especially the companions that you get, that you build your little posse. Anytime they have a side mission, I am instantly compelled to do them, because I'm like, I really like these characters. All but the one that doesn't. Maybe they'll open up later, but like at the moment, they're kind of just like, I'm a cool person that keeps myself to myself. And I'm like, that's cool, that's a fine character trait. But like, that instantly puts you on the lesser foot next to these subtly interesting characters or overtly interesting characters.
The Vincent of the group.
I don't know what that means.
I'm referencing FF7, a game that I have not played.
Cool.
Oh, just blowing myself wide open on that one.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm literally just playing through it. I guess I'm sorry to the critics and fingers of the world, but like truly, despite it one way or another, I just find this very comforting. Which, by the way, is what we're up against, comrades. The true enemy is comfort. So I don't know if they factored that into the message of the game.
Never forget what the true adversary looks like.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I don't know if they factored in that their edgy, like, take down the company game is intensely comfortable. Yeah, I mean, other than that, my other sidebar for this is the biggest argument I ever heard about The Outer Worlds is that it was too short or something like that. And that's just really absolutely incorrect.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, the main criticism is that it slumps a little near the end. So if anything, it ends at just the right time. It ends just as it starts to get boring for people.
Yeah, I mean, you can blow through this in, that's right, 12 hours. I'm not. That's an actual reference to the how long to beat.
Time to beat.
Yeah. 12 hours is apparently the average main story run through time, which I think is absurd. Like, I mean, you would
For an RPG, that is quite short, actually.
but which is handy if you're the kind of person who really needs to blast through it. But like, like you are actively who plays an RPG? They only do the story missions.
People who have a podcast.
Well, no, because there's loads of little things I might pick up. I know. I guess there's a character run out there that somebody could do. The guy who just gets on with the story and runs through it. But like, I just find it hard to believe that you're getting hit over the head with some really interesting side missions, and you're like, nope. Like, you gotta be remotely interested. Like,
now, what's the how long to beat for the main storyline and side missions, because they very handily do have statistics for both of those.
That's right.
And the completionist metric as well.
That's right.
Which is good for me as well.
The main and extra, I believe, is 28 hours, which is still short enough for an RPG, but I think it's lengthy enough.
A game of this type, yeah, it is.
But that's about right for Fallout and Fallout New Vegas length. Fallout 3 length, sorry, and Fallout New Vegas. Those are not very long games.
I'm surprised to hear that. I guess my measuring stick for these things is Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah, it's not the same.
The hundreds of hours long.
Yeah.
If you let it.
Yeah, and I have, to be sure, as an indicator, I've beaten the main quest of Skyrim 3 times. And that's the worst part of it.
I beat Oblivion. I don't think I ever did beat Skyrim. I might revisit that at some point. You know, I might go back to Skyrim and I'll be like, hey, this is the Skyrim episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
And everyone turns off.
Yeah, because everyone
turns off the channel because they don't want to fucking hear it. Oh, actually, Oblivion. I beat all of Oblivion except the Fighters Guild because I stole something from them and I got kicked out. And then I earned their favor again. And then during a quest, I accidentally killed one of their guys because, you know, if there's a whole bunch of people on one team fighting a single enemy, it just becomes a fucking clusterfuck. Like, everyone's stabbing Caesar at the same time, and they're stabbing each other by accident, and I killed a guy, and I was like, oh, well, shit. And then the hoops that I had to jump through in order to get back into their good graces after I'd done that, I was like, fuck that. Fighters Guild, you're like the lamest of the bunch. I'm out of here, bitches.
Exactly.
See ya. I'm the hero of Cyrodiil.
Well, get over it. He's just a dead dude. He's just one of your friends.
And he's like a human anyway. They're like the least interesting race. Am I right, fellow Beast players? Ay. And then I get kicked out for racism.
So Skyrim, easily, if you let it can be 80, 100 hours, whatever you want. Especially if you fucking roll again, which I have done at least 3 times. The completionist run of the Outer Worlds is somewhere around 70 plus hours. I mean, again, it's a very dense game, and every decision you make can actively cut off whole quest lines. So you can make it as short or as long as you want, depending on your choices. You just shoot the fucking main guy in the head, and you skip his quest. Everybody will kill you, but it'll, you got that option.
You've got the freedom to choose to ruin the game for yourself.
Anyway, that's my week.
The news. See, it was a Cowboy Bebop thing. You see what I did there?
Yeah, that was good. Huh? All right, this week on news, it's been action-packed, surprisingly. I feel like there was like a drought for a while in the not very recently, but like in the middle of the summer where all this shit could have went, and has been slapped into the end of August for no reason. There was a Nintendo Direct Mini this week for it was another third-party developers one, and I mean, there was next to nothing of note in there. There was World of Tanks. That was like a key note, like World of Tanks is coming to the Switch.
I hope you like rhythm games.
But, yeah, boy, Kingdom Hearts Dancing All Night. That's not the name of it. What is the name of it?
It's a Melody, something.
Melody of Memory.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, it's... That's what a get. And as the giveaway in the presentation, I don't know if you watched it.
I did, actually. It was only 11 minutes long, so...
There was a tiny tell in it that there were features exclusive to the Switch, which means this stupid dancing spin-off of Kingdom Hearts isn't even exclusive to the Switch. It's not even like a get for them.
They let slip something. They said including a whole new story
Yeah.
And at which point I was like, oh no. I can't wait for this to be required reading, because this is canon to the events of the storyline. So I hope that you've played the fucking Dancing All Night melody game whenever the next one comes up, and if you want to be caught up in the canon.
Kingdom Hearts is such a fucking scam. Never as a game series forced you to dredge through every single bit of its material and buy every single game, because you never know what's going to be important. And what's worse, when it gets to the third one, it's not even like a definitive entry. Like, it's just a bunch of stuff that happens.
See, people go on about how the Dark Souls lore is obfuscated. Oh boy. Kingdom Hearts. That's where the real, that's the hard stuff right there. That's the heroin.
It's not even like it's obfuscated. It's almost extra legible. You know, like, it's so in your face.
It's
it just
super
doesn't
liminal.
make any fucking sense.
Yeah, the Dark Souls story is subliminal. With Kingdom Hearts, it's super liminal.
As with most rhythm games, looking at the footage of it without playing it, I have no idea how the hell you play it. So this looks like it's just a random, chaotic imagery of a bunch of Kingdom Hearts players running up a music track, bopping to little counters.
For one very scary moment, I saw that the music track is curved, like, around the screen, and I went, oh my goodness, this isn't used the DJ Hero apparatus, does it? No. And I was like, no, it doesn't. Whew, this
isn't Fuser, man.
I mean, it would be nice for the DJ Hero fans out there to have something else to do with their lump of plastic, but I guess for the rest of us...
There's no way those people are holding on to those things.
DJ Hero was quite good, I'll have you know. I played at a convention one. I have the soundtrack, it's very nice.
There's a landfill right next to the ET one in Mexico, filled with plastic musical instruments, and the fucking DJ Hero is the higher bulk.
Well, if only by virtue of mass, I suppose. Man, see, if I ever visit New Mexico, I need to make a notice of visiting that landfill. I want to steal one of those things.
That's a big one. Yeah, 100%.
It's like a pilgrimage site. Just racking them up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, you're overthinking yourself, your modes of speech too much yourself. I just thought that would make it worse for you, you know, just
I know.
From one friend to another.
Yeah, like, fuck me for having an interesting way of saying correct, or absolutely, or exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, in fairness to Kingdom Hearts Dancing All Night, Kingdom Hearts soundtrack's really good.
Yeah, so. I mean, it's a killer soundtrack. I think, like, aesthetic and sound effects and music, like audio design and visual design for Kingdom Hearts is always stellar.
Yeah.
It's probably the best thing about it.
Yeah, almost.
Other than the fact of, oh, hey, it's Donald Duck, whack, whack, hey! That's about the only thing.
That's incredible sound design, getting Donald Duck in his voice in HD quality, talking about the fucking Final Fantasy plots. I started playing Kingdom Hearts 3. I made the mistake of doing this while my wife Maria was in the room.
That must have been a gas, having Maria be exposed to Kingdom Hearts.
Not only was it nonsense, but the moment she was kind of like, I don't really see what the hell is going on. And, like, we're all there. But Donald Duck comes into the frame. And he's like, you don't know what to do, Sarah. And she was like, turn this off.
She wasn't prepared.
Elsewhere in the news, Call of Duty returns to the only setting I've liked. It was announced this week that Call of Duty Black Ops returns to the Cold War with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War.
Mm-hmm. Man, you know what was a nice day? April 15th to June 4th. 1989 Beijing, where nothing happened. Everyone just all linked together and held hands, and it was a grand old time, and that's all that happened.
You have to read into the conspiracy, man. There's something behind the scenes. We need to send in our covert best.
Yeah, send in your covert best to Beijing in 1988, where they can confirm for you, the Western audience, that nothing happened there at that time. You may have heard that something happened, but you were mistaken.
Jesus. I don't think I've seen the controversial teaser trailer for this, so I'm not steeped in the hype, whatever that was. But I watched the Gamescom Ronald Reagan trailer.
Saint Ronnie.
Yeah. What a good soul. What a kind soul.
Look at his rosy cheeks. Who could ever dislike that guy, huh?
Man, like, it's awkward, badly written semi-propaganda when they can't even be bothered to portray Ronald Reagan to his kind of scathing awkwardness of real life. Like, even at his best, his defenders wouldn't have said he was, like, not a strange weirdo in most of his talk, like he was just a very strange dude in general.
He had Alzheimer's, he was kind of an asshole.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's in most terms a monster, and in general, like, even defending terms, he was like a quirky person. In the same way we take the piss out of Nixon. Like, he's got a lot of quirks to his character in terms of the way he delivers himself, in the same way we do to Trump.
Well, I've always held the opinion that Trump is a Ronald Reagan clone that went wrong in the tube somewhere.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the whole thing is that this trailer doesn't even have the gall to portray Ronald Reagan
as stately and competent.
Exactly, as anything other than this, like, fucking Air Force One Harrison Ford. Defend your people, gentlemen. That is my order.
Defend the free world.
Exactly. And it's just like, surely the whole point of the setting and the bombastic nuts craziness of Call of Duty Black Ops is we get to see these guys as, like, super parodies, right? Like, you get to see them. You get to get, like, an actor come in and do Ronald Reagan, no dignity whatsoever, and no, not only that, you'll actively pretend he wasn't crazy, like, knowingly crazy.
This ties into a problem that the Call of Duty franchise has been running into lately, where basically since COD Blops onwards, where COD Blops 1 was cartoonish to the point of ridiculousness. Like, the last shot of that game is you emerging from the ocean, getting on a boat with a whole bunch of battle cruisers around you with American flags flying off of them and, like, Harriers going over, stopping, and the music swells, like, and it stops just short of going, America, fuck yeah. And ever since then, they've been trying to go for a more grounded approach, which is very unfortunate. Because then people start asking questions about the way in which you've chosen to depict these historical figures. Very uncomfortable questions that your marketing department won't let you talk about. Questions such as, let's see, the thing that I was alluding to earlier as, why has this footage of the Tiananmen Square massacre been excised from the Chinese trailer that you released? Don't worry about that, that's fine.
Didn't happen there.
Exactly. China, nothing happened in 1989 Tiananmen Square. So, what's the problem? Why are you upset?
It's one of those. It's the Mandela effect. I think a lot of people remember it happening, but it was actually like it was a hoax.
Yeah,
because at the same time there was a TV show called Chinaman Square.
Oh yes, of course.
Where it was actually
I remember that.
Quite gritty, and there was like
Berenstain
weird,
Bears. What's going on there?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it was it was probably just it was the MK Ultra chemicals that got exposed into the air. The chemtrails and all that. Everyone just imagined that something happened in Tiananmen Square in 1989. Crazy, am I right? Who would think something like that? In any case, they've put themselves in an uncomfortable position whereby making these things more grounded and quote-unquote serious. Now, the way in which they've chosen to portray these real-life events comes into question, and they've been squirming and basically doing everything in their power to avoid having to answer any kind of difficult questions, such as, did you know in Modern Warfare, the most recent one, Modern Warfare, the one just called Modern Warfare, not Modern Warfare 1, but Modern Warfare?
You mean Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare?
No, but let's continue. They had a sequence called Highway of Death where
I think I've heard about this, but please go on.
There's a sequence where a whole bunch of there's like a military convoy going down this long highway, a convoy that contains civilians, including women and children and whatnot, and it gets bombed to shit by the Russians. And you're like, oh, those Russians, how dare they with their nasty war atrocities? How dare they? That was a terrible thing. We need to stop them. And it's like, hey guys, you know that the Highway of Death was a thing that happened in real life, right? And it wasn't the Russians that did it. it was the other guys, the Americans.
That's an awkward thing to parse, though.
Yeah,
and the Russians are the bad guys, so I mean, obviously they had something to do with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Russians. It must have been. It was a false flag operation. It was the Russians the whole time.
That's right. That makes sense.
Of course,
that makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
My always trusting, never doubting brain.
Mm-hmm. Naturally.
Yeah, I think you're entirely right. They've walked themselves into a hole. Also, like, you can't keep that serious tone. Alter history.
Know your history. That was the tagline for the trailer, wasn't it?
Oh no, that's awkward.
Yeah.
But even shit like like you can't do that shit and then also have your wacky fun white phosphorus your enemies gameplay for multiplayer and
yeah. Oof.
Tighten the load that bad, like you just think this shit through. I remember, even though it's been a couple of years, and maybe I'm sure there's some dodgy shit no matter where you look in the Call of Duty.
A lot of oops and yikes.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember in the original Black Ops, it was kind of like quirky, like it was kind of I remember the multiplayer, it was the zombie mode, had fucking you play as parodies of presidents.
Yeah,
cartoon characters.
Yeah, you have John F. Kennedy saying a bunch of stupid shit. Nixon was there. Robert McNamara, which makes everyone go, "Who's Robert McNamara?" He's the Secretary of Defense, I think.
He's a monster.
And who was the other guy? I can't remember. It was Nixon, JFK, Robert McNamara.
Castro.
Oh yes, yeah, okay. Sure, fine.
One of these things is not like the other.
What's he doing in the White House? Anyway, so yeah, you can do the whole goofy 80s, conspiracy thriller, and that's fine, but if you're gonna do a grounded, serious take on the Cold War, and the things that took place within then, you're really not in a position to pretend that you're not being political, because the Cold War was a war that was almost exclusively fought on a political theater.
100.
So,
shut up,
you can't help yourself, can you? In any case, at this point, by trying to be apolitical and by projecting yourself as apolitical, not only are you choosing to be political by inaction, you're also exposing yourself as massive cowards with your small dick energy who's afraid to commit to anything.
Yeah, the emotion I'm registering isn't as high as upset or disappointment. It's not even on that register. It's like that range of disappointed but not surprised. Yeah, it's like a grey cloud of amusement and shame.
Predictable.
Yeah. So enjoy Call of Duty Blops Cold War when it comes out in November, kids.
I mean, they could have saved that scene with Ronald Reagan if they just as the cutscene ended, he just leaned over and hit the intercom and went, "Nancy, can you send in my 5 o'clock with Oliver North?" And that would have been like, hey, they led into it. There you go.
Anything. You could have fucking hit his head on the way out. It would have been a fucking godsend.
Or snorted a line of coke or something.
Yeah,
I went, this is the good stuff. Send us off to the slums.
The big thing we had this week was Gamescom.
Yes.
Gamescom had our good old Jeff at the wheel. Take the wheel, Jeff.
Doing his best.
Keeping the game economy, the advertising economy for the games.
Like Atlas holding up the heavens.
Exactly. So we got to see a bunch of stuff. A lot of it I didn't write down because it was kind of like a trailer to something that wasn't really explained. And it was no gameplay at all. Including what was like a 10-minute segment on a new Dragon Age with nothing but concept art and fucking unfinished 3D models to show.
Always a delight.
So, no game, no hype, them's the rules, but that's not even a development. BioShock could be canned before this game gets started. Christopher Lloyd showed up.
Oh, really? In the new Dragon? I just skimmed, I took your advice, and I saw the video Yeah, I read an article that summed up the highlights. I saw the 7-hour limit of the actual video, and I scrolled down in the comments, and I saw, wow, 2 hours of trailers that we've already seen, and I went, you know what? I don't think I'll... Nah.
No, I don't recommend it. A lot of it was skippable in the moment. So you could get away with some of it, and as I did, there was like parts where it was just like prattling on about certain games. But this one I stuck around with because it was Christopher Lloyd reprising Doc Brown for maybe the third or fourth time I've seen since in the last 5 years. He's come back, and you know, thumbs up. Man still got it. What is he? 112.
He can still breathe.
He's got that energy. Yeah, no, he's great. He's really, really good. It just crushes the soul to see him shill for a live streaming game.
I was frozen today. Anyone remember that one, kids?
Anyone remember Nostalgic Critic from 2004?
Yep. You do.
Of course I do. We all had to climb out.
Remember Suburban Commando?
That's not from having ever actually watched it.
No.
I remember the meme.
The forced meme.
The very forced meme.
Remember frying the Coke? Boy, that one took off, didn't it?
No, I don't remember that one.
Oh, you know what? I'm just going to provide no context to that one whatsoever. That one can stay dead as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, good. Anyway, yeah, so he was shilling for Surgeon Simulator 2, which did look like a lot of fun. Granted, it just kind of crushes the spirit to see Doc Brown wheeled out for simulators.
Wheeled out in his wheelchair.
Just and I mean, we don't know. We don't know what he was in. You know, it was all at his house. He seemed very comfortable.
Oh, hooked up to his life support machine.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things the camera can't show when it's zoomed up in a fucking close-up of your face. Good job, Doc. Sam and Max have returned.
Hooray! I never played their games, but I'm always happy to see them because they're characters, good characters. I saw them in Poker Night at the Inventory, a game which I do quite like.
Yeah, that's pretty much my only exposure to them as well. I was watching their banter in a YouTube compilation. Because they took the original game off the market.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's been gone for a while. I think the second one might still be up, and I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. It might be gone too. So if you own it, you own it. You don't, you don't. Sam and Max, famous original Telltale characters, as far as I remember, seem to have broken free of their prison, and they're now in a VR game that looks like it's built for the ready and rearing for the PlayStation 2. So very excited for them. I mean, we didn't really get a lot out of the trailer, but hey, I've never disliked the characters. Good to see they've still got some legs somehow. People keep investing money to make games for them, so I mean, great.
Oh yeah, that's right, because I completely forgot about that, because like Sam and Max, connect that to the studio that makes them, and then you go, wait a minute, they went bankrupt, didn't they? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Who's making this?
Can't remember the name of them. They were they seemed quite small, whoever they were.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It wasn't the Rick and Morty guys, which I thought would have been
Squanch Tendo. Oh, yeah. No, sorry, Squanch Games. They had to change their name because Nintendo didn't like it.
That's great. No, it's not them. I thought they would have been a good fit, but apparently didn't get the rights, the competent rights to a Sam and Max VR game.
We couldn't get the rights.
Oh god, no. That's right. Also announced. Or possibly re-announced. I can't even tell anymore. Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormground.
Uh-huh.
The third Warhammer game in the 10 weeks that we've done this fucking show.
Also being developed by Focus Home Interactive.
Yeah, I mean, how many fucking studios do they have on the Warhammer franchise? That's not even the only mention. They also managed to cram in another trailer for Necromunda Underhive Wars later on. So what the fuck with the Warhammer? Like, I feel like I'm going crazy.
Alright, so there's Warhammer 40k, then there's Warhammer Fantasy, and then... And then after Warhammer Fantasy, there's Warhammer Age of Sigmar.
Oh,
which is
basically distinct from the fantasy line?
It's like a sort of like a successor, like it takes place afterwards, after the end times. And all the guys in big armor you see in these, they're called the Stormcast Eternals, aka Grind Marines, because
yeah, I get it.
There was like, hey, you know what's really big? You know what's floundering? The fantasy setting. For Warhammer 40k, it's so much bigger. what are we gonna do? Hey, do you know what people like? They like Space Marines. What if we took Space Marines and put them in the fantasy setting, and thus the Ground Marines were born? The Stormcast Eternals.
So fucking dumb.
No, it's basically, hey, we gotta work the brand, put it into Space Marines, put them in the fantasy one, that'll make people like it, right? And so that's basically, that's the elevator pitch for Age of Sigmar. That's what it is. Gotta get the Space Marines in the fantasy one, so there you go. Hope you're happy.
I'm steadily building some sort of repository of Warhammer knowledge. So, I mean, it's not all going out one ear.
Piecemeal. I will fill you in on everything over the course of the next 20 years.
Whatever you can do to not make me read one of these books.
Oh, don't worry. I've got so much material saved up that I just need to warm you up to at some point. It's fine. And none of it's books.
At least that's something. Anyway, hey, if you're into Warhammer, you must be, because, like, you've been listening to this show, because we are apparently fast on our way to becoming what I assume is the second highest Warhammer podcast out there, because I'm sure there's one official-ish one. There's got to be a secondary one, and we're taking that spot, and it'll be like a show of the premise of one guy doesn't have any idea what Warhammer is, and the other guy is trying to kill him. With information related to this fucking Warhammer.
I like to think of it as the Mike and Jay Red Letter Media dynamic regarding Star Trek.
Yeah.
So for listeners, as a visual aid, whenever I start talking about Warhammer, I want you to imagine Lee staring blankly into an imaginary camera for about 20 minutes.
And that's just the part they keep in the edit.
Oh, yeah.
Same goes for this show. People Can Fly are back, and they've made a new game called Outrider with atrocious dialogue.
That seems about par with what they've done before. It was like, what was it, Bulletstorm? I remember the dialogue for that being inspired in how clunky it was, and how desperately edgy they were trying to make it.
Well, then they're up to par. There's nothing to talk about it because there was barely anything to it. I just thought it was interesting that it had terrible dialogue and otherwise looked fine. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun. Some heads were blown up. That was pretty cool. Kind of got like a fantasy setting. Not completely distinct, but a little distinct from the Darksiders universe.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna bring up this page again. Ah, fuck! I was too busy looking up Warhammer shit, and I lost my highlights.
Of course. Okay, am I crazy? Or does Medal of Honor Warfighter 2 look fucking incredible?
I know, right? I thought the same thing. Maybe it's just because I was sick and tired of the fucking Call of Duty, debacle, that I was like, finally, back to World War II. Uncomplicated. Shoot Nazis. The Nazis are bad. Shoot the Nazis.
But it's like they've gone one step further. It's like an old caper.
I know. It's like Diet Wolfenstein, I suppose. Well, I mean, if it's just like, hey, it's a caper in World War II, we're gonna shoot the Nazis and we're gonna be snappy about it. It's like, yes, and it's in VR too, which is cool.
It's very cool. It just looks fucking fun. It really fucking shines a light very brightly on all the fucking idiots that have been handling World War II games in the mainstream for the longest while now, and seemingly can't find any interesting material out of it. And then bam, there's a guy fucking opening secret doors of piano keys and meeting up with shady scientists or whatever. Like, what the fuck is going on in this game? It looks fucking incredible.
It's like it's got a story. Like, I can't believe I've finally been put in a mindset where I see video game footage of like a bunch of guys in a U-boat about to go up to the beaches in Normandy, and I'm going, finally, a breath of fresh air. My God. It's good that Medal of Honor isn't just trying to beat Call of Duty at its own game anymore. It's like, hey, stick to the thing you were good at.
Yeah, like it always had a niche for kind of cinematic war stories, I guess.
It had the Spielberg touch.
Yeah, definitely. I remember really liking some of the PlayStation 2 ones. And it just lost its mind somewhere when EA was like, more profit.
Because it was like, hey, Call of Duty went to Modern Warfare and it did really well. Won gangbusters, made a lot of money. What are we going to do? Well, we've got this Medal of Honor IP just laying right there. It was the rival of Call of Duty back in the day, don't you remember? What if we were to do the same thing? And it was terrible.
Dreadful. So what happened when I was originally watching this presentation, I was kind of watching a film at the same time with Maria, and I'm kind of glancing down with subtitles at this thing, trying to keep up with it. And so I saw a little bits and flashes of this war game. I was like, yawn. And then I saw it was by Respawn, and I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. Then I saw it was Medal of Honor, and I was like, oh, that's real unfortunate. And I didn't pick up what the trailer was. And then it went into like a 10 to 15 minute long talk with one of the developers about how fucking pumped he was about this game coming out. And I was like, oh man, he is overselling.
He's got a gun to his head off camera. It's the saddest thing.
He went from spacefaring adventures and Star Wars to fucking Medal of Honor. This guy can't be happy.
This guy has almost certainly received his daughter's toenail, like his daughter's like little toe in an envelope at some point from EA.
But like I went back and when I actually watched it, I was like, you know what? I could see how you'd be proud of this. Like, they've done the absolute best they could with the material given. They've gone full-on top secret.
Yeah, you've got, like, the French Resistance, and you've got, like, characters with personalities, and there's interplay between them, and it's VR, and you're there, and it's like, finally. It's like Half-Life, you've got Half-Life Alyx, you've got Boneworks, and I'm hoping, like, this might be the sort of, the catalyst, just slowly but surely building up pressure, pushing on the VR bandwagon uphill until you get to like the top of the hill, and then you can just let the momentum take it from there. And like really want this VR thing to take off so that I don't feel like a fool when I buy one. Exactly.
Not all the other cool kids in the street are like, what the hell's that? Oh my god, he's one of those lame kids. We got VR. VR's for nerds. To get hard bullied for playing games.
Well, you're damn right I'm going to close the blinds when I do it because I'm terrified that someone will see me from the street. Because someone in VR who doesn't know that they're being watched by someone who's not in VR looks like a massive tit. They really, really do. Sitting with the VR helmet on and like your pajamas going, oh yeah, I need to do this. And then just like, I'm making this doesn't work well in the audio only. But format. You can hear me shuffling around like a fool. I think that I've demonstrated my point. I think it's telling. Maybe it's the brainworms at play here, but whenever we were at your place like years ago and Colin brought over his VR headset, I very specifically said, all right guys, let's make a pact. Let's not fuck with each other when we're wearing the headset.
It actually was a very important thing to get across.
Because like the feeling of vulnerability when you're wearing that headset in the presence of other people cannot be overstated.
Yeah. Look, I'm already underwater, and there's a shark outside this tank. I don't need somebody jostling the cage.
Yeah. I don't need anyone touching me.
I'm going to actively
in the small of my back from behind.
Because I'm actively going to swing around and hit somebody. Okay, there's a game called, to wrap up Gamescom, there was a game called Spellbreak, which was unfortunate because it looked gorgeous, but it was another live service. And I don't have... Stop making these fucking multiplayer only games. Like, we've had plenty. They like all the niches have been ticked quite clearly because
like there's literally not enough time.
There's no more interesting ideas. It's just Overwatch again with magic as a theme. So yeah, stop making these. And the last one that I could think of that was worth any discussion was Turrican. I don't know why they put time aside for this like old, lost to the ages 2D Sega game or whatever the hell it is.
In the indie sizzle reel?
Yeah, it wasn't even. It was like time between real games put aside for the return of Turrican. It's just like ports of old Sega games or something, but with the catch that they were from the now defunct Factor 5 and that people beloved for their X-Wing games. Although, who the fuck knows if they get any money from this? Like, do the original designers get anything? Probably not. It's just whoever owns the rights to Turrican, whatever the hell this is. Apparently very influential for certain music composers is what they kept getting at. Not even, like, gameplay. Just, like, the music of Turrican was really fucking good. It's like 3 people came in and said, I love Turrican's music. So it's just fucking bizarre.
once again, IGN has let me down because it's their highlights page that I'm on, and it makes no reference to this.
I see. They're correct. It wasn't a highlight. It was very, very strange. But it was good to see the name Factor 5 come up.
I suppose. Well, there was one game that I did see that I thought was worthy of mention, and it was Save the Post Office.
Save the Post Office? I don't remember saying that.
Save the Post Office as an adorable Qiwee bird duo in Qiwee. It's called Qiwee.
Is it spelled Qiwee, or is it like weirdly spelled?
It's Keywe.
Keywe. Yeah, this is why I ask.
Basically, you play as two Qiwee birds running around a post office, pushing buttons and pulling levers in order to make sure that the post happens.
I don't remember seeing this in the thing at all, but give me 5 seconds to watch this trailer.
Go ahead.
Oh, this looks great.
Oh, I know, right?
You're serving dinosaurs.
They're like cassowaries, I think.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Those are real animals.
That's right. I take it that this is like Overcooked.
Yeah, it's like Overcooked or like Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, that sort of thing.
Yeah, multiplayer. Work together or you're going to fucking blow it.
Yeah, there's lots of moving things. You have to jump on a bunch of buttons representing letters, typing things in. There's like you have to work with a teammate. It's like a cooperative thing.
Yeah, I mean, looks great. I don't remember seeing it at all in the main thing, but cool.
I need to stop watching this because I'm too busy sitting there with a smile on my face being charmed by it.
Anyway, I tuned in to Gamescom to watch for a Sonic announcement and none has been made. Why won't you announce a new Sonic game, Sega? Come on, man.
They're waiting for the fans to make it. Have you got any more news other than Gamescom? Because I've got a couple.
No, that's where mine runs out.
All right. Well, I've got one. Something real charming, something real bright to keep up the mood of the podcast after we've discussed, all those delightful things like the Tiananmen Square massacre and Ronald Reagan and.
This is a jarring cut from Qiwee.
I hope you weren't intending to cut any of that stuff out because I'm making sure it stays in.
Oh no,
constantly referencing back to it.
That's yeah, no, that was always on the cards. So right, what news you got?
So there's been a bit of a brain drain going on at Lab Zero Games. Have you heard about this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, something nice and fun to end off the podcast with. So
you did allude to this. I think in episode 2, though, you were saying not everything's sunny in Lab Zero these days.
Mm-hmm. So the gist of the story is that I don't want to say the front man, but like one of the big heavy hitters, one of the founders behind Lab Zero Games is a guy called Mike Z. He's a FGC mainstay. Well, turns out he's a huge asshole who has been Me Too'd, and it's only recently coming to light. Like, there's basically two manners of complaints. One coming from guys and one coming from gals. The ones coming from gals are exactly what you would imagine. Unwanted sexual advances, things like that.
Allegedly.
But, oh, of course, how could I forget? But, from the guys, people who work in Lab Zero Games have basically said you had to pester him over and over to get him to work on things. Like, he would just work on stuff that he wanted to work on, like neat features. But in order to actually get like, hey, this needs to get done, you would basically have to like beg him to do it. He was basically considered to be a massive man-child that everybody hated to such an extent where in this economy, people are choosing to leave the company en masse because they don't want to deal with him.
Yeah, I have seen some of the leaving and sort of letters on the way out that even like one of the founders went. Am I right with that? Somebody big in the company, definitely a dude said, I'm out. So
far what's left is an art director, an animator, and an artist, and I think one other person who I don't recall at this time. This has been complicated by the fact that Mike Z is a majority shareholder at Lab Zero. Mm-hmm. So the board basically went, right man, you've got to go. And he was like, fine, here are my demands. And they looked at the demands and said, this is fucking ridiculous. We're not agreeing to these. So he says, well, I guess I'm staying. Yeah. And
let me ask the shareholders. Oh, I am the shareholders.
Uh-huh. So what's happening is basically there's been a huge brain drain because everybody is leaving, which puts myself and the FGC in a bit of an uncomfortable position because you look at Skullgirls, right? And you go, okay, well, what can we salvage from this? You know, there's the incredibly cynical, how will this affect the things that I like? Mindset.
On a real life, I have to live with this level, and I don't know this guy personally. How do I get to keep the things I own without feeling like an absolute asshole?
Yes, well, the question of, is it possible for me to support Skullgirls without also supporting this dude? And the answer is, surprisingly, yes.
Yeah.
Probably the easiest separation from, like, the brand and the person imaginable, because as it turns out, Lab Zero Games does not own the IP to Skullgirls.
What?
Autumn Games does.
What?
Which is the publisher, I suppose.
Yeah,
Autumn Games.
I guess. That's nuts.
And the team currently working on it isn't Lab Zero, or like all of the modern developments that have been made on the game recently have been at the mobile version, which is by a studio called Hidden Variable. And this sounds a lot like we're desperately trying to salvage it for our own purposes, and we're sort of trying to gloss over the inconvenient details in order to keep the game that we like. But as it turns out, even all the people that are leaving Lab Zero have been pretty unanimous about this. Like, I have here a tweet from Brian Yun, aka EU03. His Twitter handle is @ClickAgain. And he says, Skullgirls was the result of many people, not just Mike.
Yeah.
He or Lab Zero does not own the IP, Autumn Games does. The fantastic team at Hidden Variable keeps the constant updates to the mobile version. Please continue to support Skullgirls and Skullgirls Mobile, as you always have. So, that's a relief.
That's great. I mean, that means, like, so rarely do you get a clean cut from the hard work of the people who actually make this shit, and, like, it's tarred by one egotistical maniac on the top of the fucking ladder, ruining it for all the hardworking people on the bottom rungs. So this is great news. Great.
Also, in semi-related news, a new character is being announced for Skullgirls Mobile that will be coming to the actual version at some point later. Annie. So, yay.
Cool.
You know, bit of a mixed bag that week as far as Skullgirls is concerned.
Yeah.
10-year-old game still getting supported, albeit by not the original creators, which is apparently a good thing. Who would have thought?
Yeah. What a strange and varied way to announce a new character.
No, the ideal situation here, what everyone hopes for in their heart, which might not actually happen, is that all the people who worked at Lab Zero, other than Mike, have their exodus, and then they form their own lab with blackjack and hookers. Lab 1, if you prefer.
Lab 1 sounds good.
And then they form that, and then they just do their own thing, and it's like nothing ever happened. You've just removed the cancer completely, except in a roundabout way, you've removed everything except the cancer, and then just reassembled it elsewhere. I'm losing my train of thought here. The metaphor is falling apart. In any case, Lab Zero, disintegrating over time, but Skullgirls still good, so don't need to feel bad. I'm not too sure about Indivisible, though. I don't know what the circumstances with that is, though.
Yeah, that was terrible news, Lawrence. Thanks, but I'm glad that people can still enjoy Skullgirls, which is ultimately the only thing that matters in this story.
We need to cobble together some good news. We need to end the show on a positive note.
And that's the only news you have. You've stored up terrible news for the end of the show.
Oh, actually, I think there was one other thing. It was Frog Games, I think. This isn't good news either. Oh, no.
Frogware Games?
Yes, Frogware Games. The people who made The Sinking City.
Yeah, are they Frogware or is... Yeah, no, Frogware, that's right. Frogware Games, yeah. Also owned by Focus, aren't they? Or, I can't remember. Somewhere in the Eurojank.
Oh, they're prime Eurojank. This is like choice Eurojank. That's what you want. It's the stuff you order at the restaurant.
Yeah.
It's the stuff you want delivered to you when you order Eurojank at the restaurant. So...
This is bad news?
Yeah, it is bad news. So, The Sinking City, right? It was taken off Steam lately.
Oh, I remember. And that's right.
The reason why this is because they signed a contract with... Well, they didn't use the word publisher, but it's a publisher in all but name, called Big Ben Interactive. Now, the agreement was with Big Ben Interactive was they would create the game, Frogware, and then Bigware would distribute it and would pay them according to the contract. But the people who owned the IP was always going to be Frogware. But as it turns out, the publisher stopped sending them the cash on time, and then just stopped sending them cash at all. And then they started distributing it on platforms that they hadn't agreed that they were going to distribute it on. And then they tried to make a board game without the consent of the IP holders.
Whoa.
And then it seems that they've just over time attempted to steal the intellectual property completely. And now that's resulted in legal action on behalf of Frogware Games. And they've taken it off Steam because in doing so, you're effectively funding the company that is trying to steal it from them.
Oh my god.
But they've put it back up on their own website, so you can buy it there if you like. If you already bought the game, you own it.
It's too late.
Yeah, it's too late to take it there. It's just like, it's very interesting to watch this play out because there's no way that they're going to get away with it by all accounts that I can tell.
It's so sweepingly dramatic.
Yeah, I think it's because they tried to take advantage of some temporary emergency, worker laws that France put in place on account of the lockdown.
Yeah. I believe you have to create a fantasy scenario every time you mention it. That's in the Vectormen clause.
It's in the Constitution of Vectormen. Naturally, I had one. It's the new alien hegemony that has imposed martial law upon us all to make sure that they go through door by door to brainwash us all. That's what it is.
That's the one.
I could have tied it into Call of Cthulhu, but hey, whatever.
It's too late now.
I think I already mentioned Cthulhu.
You did. You talked about the deep ones before, I believe.
Blew my low too early. Typical.
Typical.
In any case, I don't see how in any way that Big Ben Interactive is going to get away with this. I guess this is a pseudo good news because it's a whole big legal drama,
so
but it's almost certain that the bad guys are going to lose and the good guys are going to win. The only problem is that they had to go through this whole rigmarole to begin with.
Yeah, it's very exhausting, I'm sure. But at least you get to see what a corporation looks like when it proudly walks out with its pants down and proclaims the world its own.
Speaking of a corporation wandering out with its pants down and getting away and not getting away with it, there is actually a good bit of news to end off this podcast with. So don't worry, I have salvaged it. It's safe.
Good job.
It's an ongoing development in the Apple versus Epic Games debate.
Yeah. Okay. I think I might have cut this from the last episode, but we can jump straight back into it.
All right. So basically, because Epic Games broke the contract and tried to take their ball and go home, Apple Games basically blacklisted them from their marketplaces, and including on the Mac as well. And what they were threatening to do is any game or app that uses the Unreal Engine, which is owned by Epic.
That's right.
They were threatening to blacklist all of those as well, which would have been catastrophic.
Yeah.
Which would have been like an unprecedented level of just people completely unrelated to this corporate cockfight. Just being shoved off the edge.
Just to make a fucking power move, they would actively destroy the livelihoods of so many developers that relying on the Unreal Engine. Something that they legally bought the license to use. Most of the time.
Well, the good news here is that the judge overseeing this ongoing debacle basically ruled that they were not allowed to do that. They can't do that.
Great. That is good news.
So the good news is that the bad news didn't get as bad as we thought it would, so that's good.
That's good.
Hey man, it's 2020, what do you want? That's as good as you're gonna get.
Good job, Lawrence. Salvaged. Three-hour podcast, and I'm not editing it. It's going to be 3 hours. Good night.
Wonderful. Completely unedited.
You're a liar, Lee. Scotland remembers your lies.